Good day. Today I'm going to be discussing chapter 14 of Java, a very graphic story. So, this chapter is just going to mainly cover creating GUIs, graphical user interfaces. Uh, yeah. So, basically, what a graphical user interface is like the the interface the user interacts with when they're using an application. So firstly, it starts off with a window, of course. So Java GUIs are built using Swing. Swing is basically a library that provides different classes that help us create a user interface. Then secondly, getting a user event to respond to users' actions on the user interface. You need to use a event listener. So for instance, if a user clicks a button to perform a specific action or perform a specific functionality, then you need to use an event listener that calls the function that triggers that whole action, essentially. Um, we also use inner classes to help organize code, especially when multiple components need to share logic. Then there's lambdas that help as well with event handling. So you'll have like a lambda expression, or you use an event listener which calls a lambda expression, and in that lambda expression, it triggers like it will basically like trigger, for instance, the function that needs to be called. So, for instance, over here, if a user clicks a button, the event listener runs, and it's gonna trigger this lambda expression within here, and this lambda expression has a body that has the function to run, essentially. So that's how lambda expressions help with event handling as well. And drawing with paint components, this is mainly for graphics. So if you wanna have nice cool graphics, you use paint component method, which comes from JPanel, which initially comes from our library Swing. So JFrame is the main window container. JButton and JPanel are GUI components. So for creating a button and creating a panel. Action Event Listener is an interface for handling button clicks that help us perform specific actions in our application. Inner classes are classes defined inside another class, useful for organizing event logic. Lambda expressions are short syntax for implementing interfaces with one method. Paint component method is a method to draw custom graphics on a panel. And the repaint method refreshes the panel to reflect changes. Cool, so let's see how this works in the code. So over here, I have a user interface over here. As you can see, it's just a circle over here, blue circle, and a change color button. When I click this button, the color of the circle changes. So let's see how this main window graphical user interface has been created. The circle, the coloring, and the change color button works. Cool. So I'm gonna explain with the debugger. Right. So firstly, I have all these imports. Like I explained, Swing is gonna import Swing components for the graphical user interface. So all the components that come from here are for creating our graphical user interface. AWT, everything coming from here is our classes for our graphics. Then everything coming from AWT.event, import event classes for handling user actions. Cool. So this is my color changer class. This is gonna handle all the creation of the user interface and how the color of that circle changes when we click the button. So firstly, we're here by this object. This object, we're creating a window with a title, creating a frame window with a title that we pass here as an argument. Cool. I'm gonna step over, create another object, color changer panel. Color changer panel over here, and this is just going to create an instance of our custom panel. Stepping over, we end up here by the class itself, color changer, which is extending from what? JPanel, which is basically the interface or the class, sorry, that helps us create a panel. So this class extends JPanel and will be used to draw a colored circle. Within the class, right, this object belonging to the class is an initial color of the circle. So when you open the application, the initial color of the circle is set to blue. Stepping over, we come to the main method back here where the color changer panel is created, like I explained. Then the button, using JButton, which comes from Swing, right? Using JButton, we create a button and we name it change color. So it's creating a button labeled change color. So now this is where we have our event listener to the button using a lambda expression. So because we created a button using JButton, this button can't just be there on the screen, and in order for it to have a specific functionality, we need to use an event listener. Hence why we pass add action listener over here. So button.add action listener. Then within here we use the lambda expression. Lambda expression helps us trigger specific functions that we need to run in relation to the button that we click using the add event listener. So within the lambda expression, we have firstly set the circle color to red. So you can imagine this: when the user clicks the button, the event listener runs, the lambda expression runs, and then the circle color, which was initially set to blue, will be changed to red as soon as the button is clicked. That works because of the event listener that we're using. And then panel.repaint is gonna request the panel to redraw itself with a different color that we set over here. When that runs, we come here where we're gonna add the panel to the center of the window. We do that by saying frame, which is the window frame, get content pane, which is a method that gets the content, then add the border layout center. We're gonna centralize the border layout. Then here we're gonna add the button to the bottom of the window. So we say frame.get content pane, and we basically say border layout.south, because south is basically at the bottom. So we're adding the button that we created to the bottom of the window, and we pass button here as the argument. In order to do that, and we set the size of the frame window. Set default close operation is gonna close the app when the window is closed. Then frame.set visible, make sure that the window is visible. So when we run that, we see the window pops up over there and it's created, or it's visible now. We step over. Now basically over here, we are gonna, what it's gonna do is gonna use super.paint component. It is calling the paint component what's this method, right? And passing graphics as an argument there. So this is gonna clear the panel before drawing. So that's what it does. And then after that, we set the color of the circle to whatever the circle color is initially by default, which is blue. And then we fill the oval with the specific sizes here, the height being 100, width being 100, y being 50, x being 50. So this is going to draw a filled circle. And when we step over, what happens is we have our user interface with there. We have our user interface with the circle, the blue circle, the change color button. Cool. And yeah, of course, that's because we cleared the panel before drawing. We set the drawing size here and we filled the oval. Now let's go ahead and change the color. So just a second. Okay, let's run this again. So if I change the color, right now it's blue because the default color is blue. So when I change the color, what happens? We end up here at the main method, where basically we're not the main method, sorry, the paint component method, where we're gonna repaint the color of the circle because we're changing the color. So paint component clears the panel, set the color to the circle color, whatever circle color it's gonna be now. Reason being is gonna change to red. Reason being is because when you pass circle color, it's no longer passing this one, blue. We're changing blue to another color. Reason being is when you come down here, we clicked that button, right, which triggered the event listener, which runs the method that repaints the whole circle. But before it does that, it sets the circle color to red. So we know that the circle color is gonna be red. Yeah, that is basically how graphical user interfaces work in chapter 14. Using Swing to create the user interface, using the event listener for functionalities.